G'day gamers, Ranger Tony here with another SOLASTA Crown of the Magister build video. Today we're going to talk about a two-handed ranger. So specifically a ranger that uses two-handed weapons. This is based on SOLASTA early access content, so some of the details of this may change over time. I don't expect there to be major changes though, but it will if there are new races, new subclasses, new feats, anything like that. But this is basically going to be how to build to level 10 a two-handed ranger in SOLASTA Crown of the Magister. Let's have a look. So, what race works well as a two-handed ranger? Well, actually, I could say all of them, or you could also say none of them. None of them no race actually stands out as being great at a two-handed ranger. And the reason is, to do well as a two-handed ranger, you're going to need strength as your primary ability. And there are no races in the game that have a +2 to strength. There are multiple races that have a +2 to dexterity or charisma, but there are none that have a +2 to strength. So, humans are going to be your best choice here because they have a +1 to all ability scores. Your other option is going to be half-elf, which allows you to increase 2 scores by 1. So it means you could also get a +1 to your strength as a half-elf. Half-elves have some bonuses with their Fey ancestry and their dark vision, so that might be a good option, but I haven't done a build of a human before. So I think I will do that. Dwarves, with their bonus to Constitution, will be good because you will get the ability to, you will have more hit points because of that, but none of their other proficiencies apart from the resistance to poison is going to help you a huge amount as a two-handed ranger. So we're going to go with human for this build. I haven't done human builds in this game before, so let's do that. We're going to pick ranger. Our favorite enemy doesn't really matter for the details of this build, but I like to pick giant there because I just do. And then we're going to go with forest. Now, our equipment. You can't choose a two-handed weapon except for quarterstaff, and even that is considered to be versatile somehow. I don't know how you use a quarterstaff one-handed, but the spear is not two-handed, it's also versatile. So if you wanted to start with a weapon that can be used in two hands, if you don't have a shield, take the spear and a dagger, and so you will be using that weapon two-handed. But then, as soon as you can, buy yourself a great sword or a great axe or any other versatile weapon that you can use in two hands. If you want a recommendation, the Warhammer might be a good option. And the reason I say that is that there are not that many bludgeoning weapons available in this game, at least in early access. And so most of your companions are going to either be doing piercing or slashing damage, except maybe for clerics, and even then clerics are not limited to using bludgeoning weapons. So you might want to consider that. The spear, for example, is going to be piercing, and so is whatever bow you have. And I recommend you keep the bow on you, use it, keep it in your hands at all times so that at the start of combat you can use it if you need to. That is my recommendation all the time. As far as the armor goes, you're going to want to use the scale mail. Do not use the leather because you're not really going to have the dexterity to get the same armor class out of leather as you will with the scale mail. So you're going to want to stick to the medium armors with this build. So that's our setup there. Your background is not going to matter for this build at all. So any of them, it's purely up to you from a role-playing point of view. I pick Sellsword for most of these ranger builds, and I go authority and kindness, lawful good, authority and kindness. I don't know why, I just do. We'll move on. Now, your ability rolls. I say this in all the videos. It's entirely up to you which way you do it. You can roll dice, and you can just keep rolling them until you get values that you like. Or you can use the standard ray, which is 15, 14, 13, 12, 10, and 8, and put them wherever you want. Or you can use the points buy system where you have 27 points to increase all of these. And you will not be able to increase them past 16, 15 normally, but you've got a +1 in everything. So you won't be able to increase these past 16 unless you turn on the free edit. But the more points you put in them, the higher you want to go with these, the more of those pool points it's going to cost. So don't go nuts. Okay, I'm going to go back to the dice rolls, and we're going to quickly just try and roll. Now, when I do these rolls, I try not to have anything below 10, and I like to have 2 or 3 values that are 16 or higher, if I can, in all of these. So that is a pretty good spread there. 16, 16, 15, 14, 12, and 12. We need our strength to be as high as possible. Ultimately, it would be good if I had a 17 there. Let's see if I can get a 17. Oh, there's an 18. That's going to actually work very well for us because the rest of these are all going to be added to 1. So let's take an 18 for strength, which becomes 19. Then we'll take that for wisdom, that for constitution. We'll go 11 for dex. There we go, for some reason. There we go. And that. So this is not great, but it's good enough at the moment to suit our purposes. Ultimately, I'd like the dex to be 14 if possible. Everything else is fine. Constitution at 14 would be 1 extra hit point, which would be nice too. But I'm not going to sit here and roll all day just to get something like that. So I would like for this build to have at least 18 in the strength normally. So 19 is fine. So let's move on from there. The skills that you choose here are not going to affect the damage abilities in the game, so choose whichever ones you want. Don't bother taking... Well, you're not going to be great at stealth because you have low dexterity and you're wearing medium armor, which is not good for stealth. So you might want to take stealth to try and give you that little bit of a bonus, which means that, you know, you've practiced trying to be sneaky in your heavy armor. So we might actually do that, but you're not going to be as stealthy as, you know, a high dex ranger in leather armor. Okay, so be aware of that. We have 2 more. Survival and perception are always good options. Now, I say this in all my builds, choosing languages, I tend not to want to pick any of the good spoken languages. So as a human, I'm not going to take Dwarvish, Elvish, or Halfling. I'm going to assume that there are Dwarves, Elves, or Halflings around me that know those languages. And remember, an elf will know all of those languages. So as long as you've got one elf with you, someone knows all of those languages. So I would take Giant, Goblin, Orcish, Terran, or Old Temerian, and at the moment, from human, the only one you can take is Old Temerian. So we will take that, and we get a bonus language, I think, because we're human. And so I will take one of the evil languages like Giant, for example, because I'm taking Giant Slaying. So that will work in well. Your identity doesn't matter. I'm just going to want a simple name. Angus is good because it puts it at the top of the list. And there we go. We've built our ranger. Let's start leveling him up. So, this is where it gets interesting because none of these fighting styles work for you as a two-handed ranger. They don't help you as a two-handed ranger. The only one that's useful to you is defense, which gives you an extra +1 to your AC. So that's the style that we're going to have to take. Two-weapon fighting does nothing for us because we want to use a two-handed weapon. Dueling is no good for us because you have to use the weapon in one hand. And of course, archery is no good for us because we're not an archer. We still are going to use our bow, but it's no sense adding a bonus to our ranged attack rolls when we want to be fighting with our two-handed weapon. So we'll go with the defense there. You are definitely going to want to take Hunter's Mark. I say this in all my Ranger videos, but Hunter's Mark, when you cast it on someone, and it uses your bonus action to do it, which works really well with you as a two-handed user, because normally your bonus action is unused. If you're playing as a two-weapon ranger, or any two-weapon fighter, you use your bonus action as your second attack. So casting Hunter's Mark means that you can't get that second attack in that round. But as a two-handed weapon ranger, Hunter's Mark works really well for you because you can go into the round, you can cast Hunter's Mark on them, and then immediately attack and do your full attack without any problems. Okay? So we're going to take that. None of these other ones are really anything super great, and particularly in combat. Fog Cloud is the only other one that works well in combat because it creates the fog cloud. You drop it on the enemies. They have a disadvantage when trying to attack out of the cloud towards you. You have an advantage when trying to attack into it because you've put the cloud there. You know where they are in the cloud, and everything's good. So I would recommend that. The healing ones are okay, but quite frankly, you should have a cleric to do that for you instead. Level 3. This is where we do the next big thing in this build. The Ranger Archetypes. It's pretty simple here. The Hunter Archetype, for anything but... I don't think the Shadow Tamer Archetype is really all that useful. It just gives you a proficiency to attacking any creature that is sensitive to light. Not a big thing. The marksman, of course, is only useful if you're a hunter. If you're an archer, sorry. So hunter is what you want here. Now, there's 3 abilities here. Horde Breaker is if you've played Neverwinter Nights 1 and 2, or you have played Pathfinder Kingmaker or any games like that, and there was an ability in there called Cleave, which allowed you that after you killed an opponent, you got a free swing at another opponent. That's what Horde Breaker is. So if you hit and kill an opponent, then you get a free attack with that same weapon against another opponent, assuming there's one close enough. Okay? A nice ability. Giant Killer. When you're fighting large or larger creatures, and they are within 5 feet of you, and they swing at you and either hit or miss, you can use a reaction to immediately attack them back. Okay? Provided that you can see them and they're close enough, etc. So that's a nice ability, but it's very limited in scope because it only works with large or larger creatures, right? And they have to be within range and all that sort of stuff. So it's a little bit limited. What we want is Colossus Slayer. With Colossus Slayer, when you hit an opponent that is not at their full health, if they've lost even 1 hit point and you hit them with your weapon, you do an extra 1d8 of damage. All right? So this spear at the moment does 1d8 plus 4. If I attack an opponent that is already injured with this spear, I will do 2d8 plus 4 of damage. So that is 6 to 22 points of damage. All right? Now, if I have cast Hunter's Mark on them, and I attack someone who is below their full health, I will be doing 7 to 30 points of damage because I do 2d6 plus 1d6 plus 4. Okay? So, those 2 things together, Hunter's Mark and Colossus Slayer, are what make this ranger with 2-handed weapons one of the best damage dealers in the game. Alright? Provided you hit, of course. And we're only at 3rd level, and we're already, you know, one of the best damage dealers, the melee damage dealers in the game. It really is a very good ability. Take what you like here. I'm going to take Cure Wounds just for the case, but it doesn't matter what spell you take at this point. So at level 4 then, we can either increase an ability score or we can take a feat. We'll have a look at the feats and I'll point out to you what is good and bad, or what is good mostly, but we're actually going to go back and take ability scores at this point. So there's nothing here that is going to really increase your damage or your ability to hit. Sure, if I was to take Creed of Einar here, that will increase my strength by 1 to make it 20. And I become proficient with strength saving throws. So that will increase my ability to hit. It will increase my damage. But if I increase my ability points, I can put 1 point in strength and 1 point somewhere else like constitution. And that means I get better hit and damage and more hit points in the same thing. This is why I'm not taking the feat now. Okay? And taking Creed of Einar is no use later once my strength is already at 20. So be aware of that. It says it right there, max 20. So all of those creeds will increase 1 ability point. Not really all that worthwhile. They do give you bonuses to save throws and things, but they're not that bad. What you want is Enduring Body is a good if you want more hit points. Okay, it gives you 1 extra hit points per level. Flawless Concentration can be advantageous with your Hunter's Mark because you need to keep concentrating to keep that Hunter's Mark on the opponent. And this will improve your concentration so that it's less likely that if you get hit by an attack, you'll drop concentration. So that can be useful. Hard to kill. If you're going to be right in the front line, you're going to want hard to kill because if you do get knocked down, unconscious, it makes it more likely that while you're waiting for one of your opponents to revive you, you will actually stabilize and potentially revive yourself. Okay, that's what that one does. And that's it. The only other one you might want to take is Master of the Iron Legion, which allows you to take heavy armor. You've got all the other stuff that gives you. Proficiency with long swords and short swords you've already got, but this gives you the ability to wear heavy armor. So if you want to go 1-up on your armor, which is not necessarily a bad thing in this build, then you can do that as well. So that would be the only other change that I would make, but I'm going to go back and increase our ability scores, and as I said, we're going to put 1 into strength and 1 into constitution, which is going to give us extra hit points and get our strength to 20, making our to hit go to +7 and our damage to be 1d8 +5. So we're now at +8 to hit because we just went to +3 on our proficiency bonus. But our damage here is 1d8 +5. Now, you should, by this point in the game, have a greatsword, which does 2d6, not 1d8. So that would be 2d6 +5. But I'm just giving those numbers as 1d8 here because that's what you can actually see. Okay, we're going to get another spell here. We get the first of the second level spells. Not going to go into these too much, but the fact of the matter is, Bark Skin is no use to you because you've already got an armor class of 16. Dark Vision might be useful to you, so you might want to consider that. Find Traps, you can, you really shouldn't have a thief doing that. The fact is if you have to know where that spell is going to be, and then you can cast that spell, because otherwise it's a waste. Lesser Restoration is better used by a cleric than you, but you can get it if you want. The two that are really good for you are Pass Without a Trace if you are going to use stealth, but this build is not really built for stealth, and Protection from Poison. That cures poison and also protects against it, so that is the one that we're going to take in this case. Level 6, then, we get to unlock more class favorite enemies and natural explorers, so I'm going to take Aberration, and I will keep it as mountains for this. Those choices are purely up to you. They're not really going to affect... They are going to affect your damage dealing against your favorite enemies, definitely, but the natural explorer doesn't really affect whatever. So your favorite enemy check, the options that you choose for favorite enemies should be considered carefully, but you really need to know what you're going to come across in the context of the game. And if Tactical Adventures release other campaigns inside the Solasta world, then they might have different groups of enemies that work in there. So you will need to check which ones you really want to do there. Level 7, then, all we are going to get is another spell. So I'm going to take Dark Vision in this case, because I'm a human and I don't have that. At level 8, we can again choose an ability score upgrade or a feat. I will take a bonus feat at this point, and the one that I'm going to take, I think I will take Flawless Concentration to make it easier for me to keep my hunter's focus on an opponent. It's hard as a melee guy to keep your focus because you lose that concentration if you get hit. Well, there's a chance you lose that concentration if you get hit, and you're going to be up in combat. There's a good chance you're going to be hit all the time. So anything that increases your ability to keep that concentration will be a good thing. Level 9, we get a 3rd level spell. Either of these will be great for you as a human. Daylight will be useful to light up any area or drop it on an opponent if you're in an underground area to light them up to make them easier to hit. Protection from energy is always good. It only works on one creature though, so you're going to only do it on yourself, but whatever. I'm going to take Daylight for this time because we're a human and that works well for us. And then finally, level 10, we get to choose an area to unlock another natural explorer. I'm going to pick Grasslands, but these are, you know, whatever you want to choose, whatever works well in the adventure you're doing, that's it. So there we are. There is our level 10 two-handed ranger build. It's primarily a strength build. We don't have a lot of dexterity, but we should be using our bow as our main weapon in combat initially, so that, you know, you're going to start most of the time with enemies at a distance. So if you've got your bow in your hand, you can shoot at them and then move forward and switch to your two-handed weapon. Ultimately, you're going to take spear initially because you can use that two-handed, but you should get rid of that and get a great sword, a great axe, or any other two-handed weapon that you find that works well for you. You are going to be able to do ridiculous amounts of damage when you hit if you combine your two-handed weapon with Hunter's Mark and your Colossus feat, your Colossus ability, which gives you that extra 1d8. So that's the build. I hope you enjoyed this two-handed ranger build. If you did, leave some comments down below and I will see you for the next video. Thanks a lot. Bye.